The Storybook Spooks, Part 1.
Hello? Hello? Oh, thank goodness. There's something there. You are listening, right? Oh, I don't care anymore. If there's no one there, fine. But if there's a slim chance anyone is there, please don't leave. I need to tell you something urgently. It's going to sound far-fetched, but I promise you, it's all true. I'm not sure of the correct date. Feels like I've been stuck here forever, but let's just say it was a week or two ago. I've been in pitch black darkness for days now, kept here until whatever it is in charge decides what to do with me. You see, I broke the rules, something you're not supposed to do. I was walking down the village shops where I live with my mum. We were buying ingredients to make dinner, but a travelling bookshop was in town for one day only. At least that's what the sign read on the door. I couldn't resist a look. I was so sick of all those books with happy endings. They were too young for me. I wanted something more mature. I wanted something dark. Something that would make me dare to turn the next page. Thinking back, that woman forced me into choosing that book. Hypnotised or poisoned me or did something. I wouldn't have chosen that book in my right mind. Why did I enter the shop? If I could only go back in time, I'd want everyone in the area to stay away. I know I'm young, but trust me, if I got my hands on that woman who caused this, she'd never have gotten away with this. Every instinct I had was telling me she was deceitful and wicked. I guess I only have myself to blame for accepting a book from such a woman. I've been here so long now, and yet I haven't craved water or food. I don't think I'm even in my body. Just my soul is here, waiting for where it's going to be placed next. Oh, but I don't want to think about that until it happens. Here, to pass the time, if I remember what happened to me as hard as I try, maybe, just maybe, I could share the memory with you. Here, let me try. I'll imagine it like a story so it's easy for you to understand. Okay, here we go. Oh, my name's Lola, by the way. I'm not myself anymore, but I'll tell you who I was. Let's go back to a time when I last remember being me. After weeks of rain and a barrage of murky grey clouds consuming the sky, a week of scorching weather reserved for the peak of summer had come to April. Lola was applying sunscreen to her face for protection. She looked into a bedroom mirror which had an avocado green frame that she had painted herself. She wiped the mirror with the back of the sleeve of her discarded jumper she had found on the back of her chair. "That's better," she said. Now she could see her face. She sprayed a blob of sun cream into her palm and began adding a dab at a time with her finger. She spread a bit down her slightly short, sloped nose. She mixed the cream into her tanned cheeks, which she noticed had developed dark brown, tightly grouped freckles in the sun. She laughed. Oops! For she had accidentally spread the cream into her curly, wispy patch of dark brown hair on the left corner of her temple. Actually, was it the right temple because she was looking in the mirror? No, it was definitely the left. Her eyes were a darker shade of green than that of her mirror frame. People often thought before they took a closer look that they were a dark woody brown colour, and Lola would hear, "Oh, I didn't know you had green eyes." Those dark green eyes had a vibrancy and alertness which matched Lola's inquisitive nature. The thin arched eyebrows made her look surprised, even when she wasn't. Lola was in a rush. Her mother was impatiently waiting. They had to leave immediately because the shops would be shutting within half an hour, and they were walking on foot to the village square. If they couldn't get the ingredients for tonight's meal, it meant the third day in a row of leftover lasagna, and Lola couldn't stomach another lasagna. The village square comprised of a robust red telephone box in the centre, with benches, a statue, and pillars that drew a perimeter around them. There was a cobbled walkway with many parked cars on the side. There were many charity shops, a hairdresser's, and a few bakeries. The chip shop, that was Lola's favourite. There was the Three Lions Inn, which Lola's parents went to most Saturday nights. There was everything a quiet little village needed to be happy. On her walk to the village square, Lola noticed wavy lines were rising up from the ground in nearby cars. Lola couldn't see the church in the distance, for the sun was so low in the sky, striking her line of vision so that she was forced to avert her gaze. Lola didn't notice before, but the empty shop she had always overlooked, because it had been boarded up with cardboard at the windows, now had a sign. The sign wasn't eye-catching but read, "For one day only, book sale." Lola told her mum she spent her pocket money on a book this time, not the usual sweets, which her mother thought a good idea. Her mum was going to carry on shopping for the ingredients, and Lola was to catch up with her after she brought her book. With or without a book, Lola needed to browse inside the shop, at least for a few minutes, for some shade and instant relief from the heat. Lola thought a book sale would have the local village folk queuing up outside, but to her surprise, she was the only one in the shop. Lola thought maybe the shop had just opened and she was one of the first customers to arrive, but it was late in the afternoon. Maybe the sign outside the shop was too shy to be seen. All that didn't matter now, for the cold shop gave Lola instant relief from her sun-drenched, perspiring skin. It was very chilly indeed inside the shop. It was as if there was an air conditioner in the room, but Lola looked up, scanned the room and couldn't find one. Lola felt she should ask for some assistance before searching for the book she wanted. It would be quicker if someone could point her in the right direction. I approached the counter. I caught a glimpse of dark hair, the top of a woman's head. She was busy tending to the books behind the counter. She was wrapping what looked like a large leather-bound book in some paper. She rose slowly and dumped the book on the desk in front, which made me jump. The woman unwrapped the book she'd been wrapping, spread the pages open to the centre, and suddenly slammed the cover down in front of me. A few seconds later, I let out a sneeze. I couldn't believe a person could be so inconsiderate, but I thought I'd give her the benefit of the doubt. I stared at her, trying to engage her attention. This woman was quite unusual. She looked like she was in her mid-50s. Not that that was unusual, but I had worn the lightest t-shirt I could find, and still my lower back was chilled with sweat. And yet this woman was wearing thick brown dungarees, a long-sleeved green checked shirt with yellow stains under the armpits, and underneath that a creamy polo neck jumper that hid the bottom of her chin. Her long black hair looked wet and greasy, and had been tied in a ponytail that draped over her right shoulder. She looked deep in thought. Her ginormous eyes were matched by a pair of ginormous eyelids. She had painted a layer of makeup on the lower lids, which had smudged to give her the appearance of having never slept. The woman's light-coloured eyebrows meant she had either dyed her hair cat-black dark, or she was wearing a wig. Her nose was thin and long, and the breaths she took were so deep that her nostrils would flare on every in-breath. She had her mouth shut, but the two front, slightly crooked teeth poked through her plump lips. It took a long time for her to finally look at me. She was smiling slightly before she made eye contact, and when we did lock eyes, her expression changed dramatically, and she ceased smiling at once. She looked as if she'd seen a ghost, raised a long, thin, bony finger and pointed it at my face. Her arm slowly dropped back down to her side. The woman said, My mouth, it's gone a bit dry. Do you have any water? No, I said. Oh, actually, I looked into the side bag I was carrying on my shoulder. I have a drop left in my water bottle. Her eyes bulged a bit, and before asking, she snatched the water bottle out of my hand, gulped down the small amount of liquid as if she was dying of thirst, and shipped the remaining drops down the back of her throat. She had bent down behind the counter for a moment, and then I jumped. That's better, she said manically, popping back up, eyes bulging out of their sockets with a pasted-on smile which made her mouth triple in size. As she placed her arms down on the desk, I saw she was wearing an unusual collection of jewellery. One arm was covered in what looked like the most expensive bracelets and bangles money could buy. The other arm, in contrast, had a rusty cheap imitation spray-painted gold jewellery running up it. I always had very good instincts, and every nerve fibre in my body was telling me to run, that I was in mortal danger. Not just run out the shop, run back to my bedroom, lock the door, and never come back to the village square. That's what made my choosing to stay all the worse. I don't blame myself entirely. I don't have proof. I don't know how she did it, but I was definitely entranced. I went to speak, but the words were caught midway down my throat. Sorry, my mouth's gone dry. It's contagious, she smiled, her eyes firmly fixed on me. Her eyes dropped, looking at my neck, as if she could feel the symptoms of my dry throat. I don't know where on earth she got it from, but she took a large grey jug of water, which she poured into a glass. Here you go, she said as she pushed the glass closer to me. But you said you didn't have... Shh, she interrupted, and pressed the long bony finger to her mouth. I felt I had no choice, as the dry throat was starting to feel unbearably painful. I took a thirst-quenching sip and my dry throat cleared immediately as little shards of ice slid effortlessly down my throat. Listen, I'm in a rush and need to choose a book. I haven't got much time. I want you to give me the scariest book you have. Within reason, of course. I am still a kid. There is no such book here. She slapped the book she was holding in front of my face again. It must have been an old book, for the dust it gave off circulated into a hazy ball around me, obscuring my vision. I choked and spluttered, and put my arms to my face to block it out. I turned behind me, wondering why no one had rushed to help. Then I remembered. I was the only one in the shop. I'd better leave. I quickly paced to the door, opening it so that the bell rang again. She called after me in a much more normal tone. But I thought you wanted a book to read. You told me there weren't any scary books here.
The Storybook Spooks. End of part 1.